So, as we've just heard, today's gospel is the famous story of the widow's mite. I'm sure that we're all very familiar with it. The poor widow, who had given a small sum of money to the temple, was contrasted favourably with some of the wealthy who had given considerably greater sums. The implication, quite clearly, is that the widow did better than the wealthy in this case. But what made the widow's action, the widow's offering, meritorious? Why did our Lord commend the widow to us? Well, the first point to note is the widow's intention in making her offering. Negatively, that intention stands in sharp contrast, we might suppose, to those intentions of the scribes which our Lord had identified at the beginning of this portion of the Gospel. Thus, the widow's intention, quite obviously, wasn't that she be greeted obsequiously in market squares, as one translation puts it, nor was it that she was to be taken to the front seats in the synagogues or to the places of honour at banquets. In other words, the widow's intention wasn't to advance her standing in the community. Fair enough, we might say, it wasn't about that, but what was the widow's intention positively? Well, we might say that if the widow's intention is not about advancing her standing in community, then reasonably, I think, we can surmise that her intention is pure. It's about God. It's not about her. Moreover, if we avail ourselves of the first reading, then Elijah's encounter with the widow at Sidon gives us a further hint of what the widow's in the Gospel's intention might have been. There, the widow at Sidon trusted firmly in God, even to the point of sharing her last bit of food with Elijah. Yet that trust didn't result in the widow's disappointment or her impoverishment. On the contrary, what she shared with Elijah wasn't exhausted. So trust characterized the widow of Sidon's intention, and likewise we might suppose it characterized the widow of the Gospel's intention. Therefore, the widow in the Gospel not only enjoyed a pure intention, but also trusted in the Lord. A pure heart trusts in thee, O God, we might say. If we turn next to what the widow offered, the Gospel tells us that it was 2 small coins, the equivalent of a penny. That's interesting for at least 2 reasons. First, because a penny, the value of the widow's offering, was roughly equivalent to 1/64th of a labourer's daily wage in Israel and Judah at that time. This meant, objectively, the widow was offering a small amount of money, a very small amount of money. Yet, subjectively, it was an amount of money which was hugely significant to the widow, precisely because she was a widow with presumably no other form of income. So the widow was generous in what she offered, proportionately to her means, and that generosity can be added to the pure intention and trust in the Lord that she possessed. But what the widow offered is interesting for a second reason also. There were doubtless plenty of other pressing things the widow could have done with her penny. Yet what she chose to do with it was to make an offering to God. In other words, what was important to the widow was that she employed the resources available to her in service of God. But that's surely a message for us also. If this poor widow was willing to employ her resources in that way, then surely we ought to do the same. What resources we have ought to be prioritized in the service of God. It's not that we ignore other obligations on our part, but that our obligations to God have a high place, the first place in our lives. Moreover, if we can do this and we give God first place in our lives, then if we additionally approach God generously with a pure intention and trust in God, then who knows what we might achieve as well.